Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Blues Talk. And a few of you have been asking for this one, a review of our transfer window. Blues' biggest ever transfer window. The most memorable, most hectic, most dramatic transfer window we've ever had. And it's a bit unusual for us, because we're conditioned as Blues fans to not really expect much in the way of signings. But we've signed 14 new players since last season. This is unreal. Now, it has taken a bit of time to come together. We've had a few things go wrong, signings fall through, issues with work permits. But now we've got a squad full of Harry's own players. And it's a squad that has really got the potential, I think, to compete for the top six. This is what we wanted as Blues fans. I know people were getting wound up with the lack of signings at the start of the season. We needed a striker, we needed attacking options. And I know our performances to start the season have been poor. But I said last time, do not judge this squad until September. And here we are in September, and we've practically got a whole new team. We've signed 6 players in the last 48 hours of the window. That's an unbelievable amount of activity. That is Harry in his element. And he ain't just gone out and signed any old players. He's signed some really good ones, some very promising players. And the biggest one of all, £6 million from Brentford. Our new record signing. I've got his full name here. Jose Ignacio Pelletiero Ramayo, a.k.a. Hotter. What a name, what a player. And it definitely is Hotter. It's not Jota or Jota or Jota or Jota. You pronounce it with the H. That's how they do it in Spain. I've spoken to my sources over there. It is Hotter, 100%. And get to know his name because he is a Spanish magician. Attacking midfielder, a wizard with the ball, a goal threat. He looks an absolute quality player. 26 years old, he's just coming into his prime, and immediately I think becomes our most skilled player and the player that we can build our team around. He's someone that links midfield to attack, which is something we haven't had since John Terrell. But I think he's going to be so much bigger than Terrell. I think he's going to be an absolute star. He's going to be someone that just lights up the place, and I think the fans are going to love him. He's got the hair, he's got the classic Spanish pizzazz. I already love him because he's a big basketball fan. And he just looks like a real character. Of all the signings we've made, this is the one that stands out. It's a real show of ambition, a real show of intent from our owners. This is the signing that shows what they're all about. Hotter's coming in and he's on a reported £40,000 a week. That is big, big money for us. And it shows how serious we are about pushing on. We're signing a player who a lot of Brentford fans will say is their greatest ever. That's a big move. He's a man in demand. Fulham were desperate to get him apparently. Borough was supposedly in for him over the summer. And if we're honest with ourselves, those are 2 clubs that in recent seasons we just would not have been able to compete with. And here we are, signing one of their top targets. It's a sign that now we're back to being one of the big boys in this division. As we should be. As we used to be. Very exciting times. Now, of course, that's not the only Brentford player we signed, because it was a proper raid. We've gone down there and ransacked the place. This is a club that finished 9 places above us last season. And we've looked at them and said, yeah, we'll have him, and we'll have him. Hotter, Harley Dean and Maxime Collin. Thank you very much, done and dusted. A classic case of asset stripping. This is like Tony Soprano being owed a gambling debt and saying, all right, I'll have your car, I'll have your cash, and I'll have your business. We're Birmingham City. We'll do what we want. Just think, the Brentford fans were upset when we signed Clayton Donaldson on a free. Imagine what they think of us now. Unfortunately for them, this is the reality of football, modern day football. We've been affected by it many times ourselves. Money talks, money dominates the world of football. It's the harsh reality. And for once, it's us that are spending a bit of dough and taking advantage. But fair play to Brentford, because this is what they do. They sign players that no one's heard of for next to nothing, and they sell them for a big profit. And I'm sure they'll keep overachieving and punching above their weight. But hopefully, they'll be finishing well below us in the table this year, because these players are the type of players that we need to succeed. Harley Dean, £2 million, solid defender, a leader, a strong character, apparently very influential in the dressing room, even though he's only 26. And he's that third starting quality centre-back that we were after. And I dare say, spending $2 million on Dean is much better value than spending 5 or 6 million on Aidan Flint. And the icing on our Brentford cake, Maxime Collin. £3 million, right back, 25 years old, looks like a really good signing. I've been speaking to Billy the Bee, who some of you might have heard of. He does fan videos for Brentford. His website is called Besotted, worth checking out, top bloke. And he said this lad Collin is absolutely quality. He said he's a ready-made wing-back, he can get forward, and unlike Ensu, he's not going to get constantly caught out defensively. And again, according to Billy the Bee, this is a lad who was wanted by a lot of clubs. Hull were in for him. Nantes were in for him. A team that finished 7th in France last year. They just missed out on Europe. They wanted him. Another player in demand coming to Blues because we've got the financial clout and because we've got an ambitious manager that people want to play for. Now, believe it or not, it wasn't just Brentford players that we signed. Because before all this happened, we signed Jeremy Boga on loan from Chelsea. And this, really, before Hotter, was the one that got us all excited and made us think, okay, we could be in business. 20 years old, quick, strong, powerful. Something different. A player that likes to get the ball and run at defenders, either on the wing or down the middle. Now, by the looks of the clips that I've seen, he doesn't like to give the ball up once he's got it, but he's going to be exciting to watch. And he's going to have defenders second-guessing themselves. He's going to win free kicks, which we don't get enough of. And if you speak to Chelsea fans, this lad's got a really bright future. And he really stood out for them this pre-season. He even started the first game of the season for them in the Premier League. So he's clearly got a lot to offer. And I really think the combination of his pace and power and Hotter's skill is going to be really, really good for us. It's going to offer us something completely different to what we're used to. A really dynamic attack. I'm very, very excited to see this lad. We've also signed Jason Lowe on a free transfer, a holding midfielder who looks like squad cover to me. He can play right back, he can play centre back. And it's nice to have players who are leaders, because he was the captain at Blackburn last season in the Championship. And a few years ago he was the England captain at the Under-20s World Cup. He's going to be good in the dressing room, good to have around. And that's something that I think we've been lacking a little bit. I think Harry's comments after the Burton game made it clear that in his mind he didn't have leaders in the team. I thought that was one of our biggest problems under Zola. I thought our only real leader was Paul Robinson. You've got to have leaders on the pitch. You've got to have multiple leaders around the squad. You've got to have positive influences, especially when you've got a lot of young players around, players on loan, players who are trying to find their way. It can't just be Harry being the mentor all the time. It has to come from different places. And now, all of a sudden, we've got quite a few players in our squad that have been captains, that are leaders. It's not just Robbo. It's not just Morrison. It's Mark Roberts. It's Harley Dean. It's Jason Lowe. And that can only be a good thing. And finally, another youngster, another player that might need some of that leadership. Liam Walsh, on loan from Everton. 19 years old, bright young player. Another one in demand. Reportedly, Bolton and Barnsley were in for him, among others. And again, just like the Chelsea fans with Boga, the Everton fans have got very high expectations of this lad. And again, just notice how youthful a lot of these players are that we've brought in. The 10 players that we signed in the last 2.5 weeks of the window have got an average age of 23. Harry's building a team of quick, mobile, young, exciting players. And it must be a surprise to the cynics out there that said he was going to turn Blues into a retirement home, who thought he was going to bring all his old cronies in and overpay, maybe bankrupt us in the process. I think all we've seen from Harry is shrewd business, a combination of free transfers, loans, and money spent on really smart signings. Look at what we spent on Isaac Vassell 3 weeks ago. Close to £1 million. I'd say he's already worth £3 million minimum, because he was the best player on the pitch for us at Burton, and he caused Bournemouth loads of problems as well. He looks an absolute handful, and again, young, exciting, powerful, quick player. And I can't wait for him and Shay Adams to be back fit. And you can say, oh, but Harry broke the club record fee to sign Hotter. Yes, but £6 million wouldn't even qualify as close to a record fee for most clubs in the Championship. And yes, $40,000 a week is a big wage for us. But I think the reality is that's what you have to pay to sign big players in this division. And Harry has said from the start that he's got the resources, he's got the full financial backing of the board. And now we know that that is absolutely the case. because they've backed him 100%. Fair play to them, and fair play to him. I think he's just doing a great job so far. I think, to put it in simple terms, he's had two key hurdles to get over for us so far. Number one, obviously, was keeping us up. And number two was renovating this team in the transfer window. And he's done both in the way that only he can. Which now leads to the third hurdle that he's got. And possibly the most difficult. And that is the challenge of meshing this team together. Getting these players to play as a cohesive unit. And to push us up that table. And again, like I said when we brought him in, if anyone can do it, Harry can. I think this is what he signed up for ultimately. Not to keep us up, but to take us up. So let's see what he can get out of these players. The first question is, what's that starting lineup going to look like on Saturday? So let's hash it out. What do you think the starting 11 will be? Here's what I think. I think it's going to be a wing-back job. I think that's the system Harry wants to play, based on who he's signed and how he's set up the team in recent weeks. And here's my team. In goal, Stockdale, bam, easy. And in defence, the three in the middle. It's Dean, Morrison and Roberts. Dean's got to play. He hasn't signed to sit on the bench. He's straight in there. And then the wing-backs, it's Bramall on the left and it's Colin on the right. Again, Colin's got to play. And this is where it gets really interesting, I think. Of course, Hotter's in there, no question. And I think Boga's in there next to him. This is a lad that's got a lot of quality and he's going to provide pace and a bit of an outlet. And that's what you need. I think Gallagher's up front on his own. Vassell's still injured. And Shea's not back to full strength yet, so he'll be on the bench. Now, is Gallagher going to be prolific enough to be the lone striker in this kind of system? We'll see. We didn't see much from him on his debut. But then again, he had no service. So now it's a completely different ball game because he's got two players behind him who can create something out of nothing. But they've also got to be able to track back and turn that midfield 2 into a midfield 4 when we need it. Can Boga do that? We don't know at this stage. I haven't got a clue. But I'd like to think that we're ambitious enough to go there with this little triangle up front and cause Norwich a lot of problems. And then finally, the two in central midfield. I've gone back and forth over this one. I'm going to go with Ndoye and Davis. And I think it's a chance for Ndoye to prove Harry right for signing him, because he's had a very uninspiring start to his Blues career. Let's be honest. JK himself said it. He's looked like a bit of a donkey so far. But this is the type of team I think he was signed to be a part of. And it's a chance for Davis to play in his preferred position, again with quality players around him. Now, I'm not sure. It could just as easily be Gardner getting a start ahead of either of those two. We'll see what he decides come Saturday. Let me know your thoughts. What do you think the starting 11 will be? What should it be? Are you happy with this formation? Are you happy with the look of this team? With this type of team? Personally, I really like the look of it. It's a team with good shape. It's a team that's versatile. This is a very modern looking team all of a sudden. And it's not something we're used to at Blues. But I tell you what, we're going to embrace it. And this is what I'm talking about when I say how lucky we are to have Harry. Because he's spearheaded this. He opens the door for a deadline day like we just had to happen, where we're signing highly rated players from up and down the country, where we're one of the top stories on Sky Sports News. The only championship club that they've sent a camera crew to at 8 in the morning. This is the Harry effect. And there's no guarantee that it will work. There's no guarantee that we'll make the playoffs. But I feel like we're in with a chance now, and it's a decent chance. And the optimism about the club now and amongst the fans is something that we haven't experienced in years. So to sum it up, it's been a brilliant transfer window. And it's a really exciting time to be a Blues fan. I can't wait to see what this team can do and what Harry can bring out of them. Bring on the games, bring on the away days, bring on Norwich on Saturday. If you're going to be there, let me know. Give me a shout, come and get on the video. I'll be doing a Davo's Diary as always. And it's a big, big day. Another sold out away crowd for us. And our first glimpse, hopefully, of what the new look Blues might be capable of. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening to me ramble on again. Any thoughts that you've got, post them below. And as always, keep right on.